Right, okay, we're going to take a look at paper 2 here, and probably traditionally seen as maybe a more difficult paper because it's got the usually 19th century text as well as the modern text, and you're doing comparisons. With this 1 hour 45 minutes, you're getting 15 minutes reading time included in it. So what I'm going to show you here is how to use that reading time and get a good decent summary of both texts so you can answer question 2 and question 4. Question 3 is going to be on one text and a how language question, which is pretty similar to what you've done on paper 1 really. Question 2 and 4 here require comparison, so they're probably a little bit different. So first thing you do in your reading time, you are allowed to write things down and make notes in your reading time. Do use the reading time though to understand the text properly. Don't just race ahead and start answering questions. I think it's important that you spend a bit of time getting used to what they're asking you to do with these texts, because they're quite likely to be quite a bit. They're going to be challenging. So let's take a look with this reading time. Okay, so my first job in the reading time is to actually annotate, pick out the keywords. Okay, so firstly I'm looking for statements that are true, and there'll be 4 of those statements that are true. Remember that there'll always usually be one that's a bit contentious and maybe there to sort of catch you a little bit. Okay, let's carry on going through the questions. Question 2 says I've got to look at source A and B, so I've got to look at both. It says here both sources. So it says write a summary, so I'm summarising. So like broad details, you know, the big details, looking down into maybe some more smaller specific details. I'm summarising the differences. What the writers say are the problems associated with holidays. Just think about that for a second. Okay, so you're writing a summary, sort of broad ideas down to specific ideas of the differences between the texts. So the differences, the problems that these writers associate with holidays, looking for how their problems are different. Okay? You'll see in the example answers I emailed to you how that question is approached. Okay, so question 3, 12 marks, and it's about a mark a minute, so an 8-mark question, 8 minutes or so. Okay. Question 1 I think you can probably get done quite quickly. Question 3, only refer to source B. You'll be amazed how many students don't read that bit and they actually answer on a different text. Sometimes this question will say only look at a particular section of lines, and that means if you answer outside of that you're in trouble because you're not getting credit. This says source B, so it can be any bit of source B. It doesn't give you a specific line reference. So it's a how question. How does Gissing, who's the writer, how does Gissing use language, so we've got to talk about our language knowledge, etc., to suggest that bank holidays make people unhappy? Okay, to suggest that this bank holiday he talks about, which is the thing he really talks about when you see the text, that it makes people unhappy. Think about that question in a slightly different way. Where is the language pushing forward the idea that bank holidays make people unhappy? It might be the writer, it might be a bunch of other people that he's actually looking at as well. So where in the language is that idea pushed really strongly? That's a 12-mark question, so you know, you're talking 12 minutes or so really. 16-mark question, similar to the 20-mark question on paper 1. This question can scare students a little bit. It's worth 16 marks, so it's, you know, it's worth quite a lot of the reading section, you know, approaching half of it. And it asks you the whole of source A and the whole of source B. This can be a bit overwhelming if you don't leave yourself enough time for it, or you are panicking. Source A and source B together, the whole of the sources. So we need to maybe range our answers around the sources a little bit. And the question says, compare how. The two writers convey, portray, show, suggest, imply, all those words are relevant. Compare how the two writers convey their feelings about holidays. Their feelings, and it's about these holidays. A couple of bullet points, compare different feelings, compare the methods, supported reference to the text. Those bullet points are not the sort of things you want to do in that order. because really you want to make a clear point about one text, put some quotation in, talk about the methods the writer's using, then make a link of similarity or difference to the other text and do the similar thing. You'll see that in the answers. So those bullet points are probably not that helpful in the order they're put in. But the question, compare how the writers are putting across their own feelings about holidays. Now remember, you've got a writing question on this paper as well for section B, which is argue, persuade. A bit of inform comes into it, but it's essentially argue, persuade, because you're putting forward your opinions. So you're really looking, I suppose, here where the writer, especially one in The Guardian, the first text we'll look at, where he really is trying to suggest to you that his feelings about holidays are true, that he feels them very strongly, and he tries to get that message across. You'll see in the older text, source B, the 19th century text about bank holidays and about people's misbehaviour during bank holidays in the Victorian period, you'll see that the writer has a real list of things he wants to get across about why he feels that bank holidays promote bad behaviour. So when you're looking at the methods, it's not just what's said, it's how it's done, how it's created, and you'll see answers to that as well in a second. So I'm going to go on to the next video in a second, and I'm going to deal with both texts and show you how to annotate and really capture so you can answer the summary question, but also this question 4 as well.